In a massive building that housed Stellar Tech Industries, the air buzzed with excitement. The company was known for its cutting-edge technology and groundbreaking inventions. It was the kind of place where dreams were made, or crushed. On this particular evening, the grand hall was filled with people dressed in expensive suits and polished shoes. Scientists, engineers, and wealthy investors moved around, chatting about their latest projects and sipping champagne. Among them stood Maya Carter, a young woman who didn't belong to their world but found herself there anyway. Maya wasn't like the others. She didn't wear designer clothes or carry a fancy degree from a prestigious university. Her father, Daniel Carter, worked as a janitor at Stellar Tech. He cleaned floors and emptied trash bins while the people around him dreamed of changing the universe. But Maya had her own dreams. From the time she was little, she loved machines. She would watch videos online, read books borrowed from the library, and take apart old gadgets to see how they worked. Her curiosity knew no bounds, and over the years she taught herself more than most engineers learned in school. That night, Maya had tagged along with her father. She often did this when he worked late shifts. While he mopped floors and dusted corners, she wandered through the halls, peeking into labs and reading notices on bulletin boards. Tonight, however, something unusual was happening. The CEO of Stellar Tech, Richard Caldwell, had called everyone together for what he promised would be an unforgettable event. Curiosity got the better of Maya, so instead of staying in the shadows, she slipped into the crowd. Richard Caldwell was a tall man with sharp features and a commanding presence. He stood at the front of the room, his voice echoing through the hall as he spoke about the future of space exploration. Behind him loomed a large machine covered by a silver tarp. The audience watched eagerly, waiting for the big reveal. When Richard finally pulled the tarp off, gasps rippled through the crowd. Beneath it sat a sleek, futuristic engine, unlike anything anyone had ever seen. It gleamed under the lights, its surface smooth and metallic, dotted with glowing panels. "This," Richard declared, sweeping his hand toward the machine, "is the quantum drive prototype, a device capable of powering interstellar travel. It will change the course of human history." His words hung heavy in the air, and the audience erupted into applause. But then his tone shifted. "However," he continued, "there's a problem. This prototype is malfunctioning. Our best engineers have tried and failed to fix it, so tonight I issue a challenge. Who among you can repair the impossible?" The room fell silent. No one dared to step forward. The task seemed too daunting, even for the brightest minds in the room. Richard scanned the crowd, his lips curling into a smirk. Then his eyes landed on Maya. She froze, unsure why he was looking at her. Before she could react, he pointed directly at her. "You," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "The janitor's daughter. What's your name?" "Maya," she replied softly, her cheeks burning red. Whispers broke out around her. People craned their necks to get a better look at the girl standing awkwardly near the back. Some snickered, assuming this was some cruel joke. Others simply stared, curious to see what would happen next. Richard stepped closer, his gaze locked on hers. "Maya, isn't it? Tell me, do you think you can fix what our experts couldn't?" His tone was teasing, almost mocking, but there was also a flicker of genuine interest in his eyes. Maya felt her heart pounding. She wanted to say no, to shrink away and disappear into the crowd. But something inside her refused to give up. Maybe it was pride, maybe it was defiance, or maybe it was just the thrill of being given a chance to prove herself. "I'll try," she said firmly, surprising even herself with her confidence. The room went quiet again, all eyes on her. Richard raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "Good," he said. "You have until the end of the week. If you succeed, you'll earn not only my respect, but also a place here at Stellar Tech." As Maya walked away from the stage, she could feel the weight of everyone's stares. Some looked at her with pity, others with amusement, and a few with outright hostility. She knew they thought she didn't stand a chance. And maybe they were right. The engine was far beyond anything she'd ever encountered. But deep down, Maya believed she could do it, or at least she hoped she could. Little did she know, this decision would set off a chain of events that would change her life, forever. The next morning, Maya woke up with a heavy feeling in her chest. She had barely slept, her mind racing with thoughts about the impossible challenge ahead of her. The image of the sleek, futuristic engine kept flashing in her mind. It was beautiful, but intimidating, like a puzzle designed to stump even the smartest people. Maya knew she wasn't an expert, but she also knew she couldn't back down now. She had accepted the challenge in front of everyone, and failing would mean proving them right. She was just the janitor's daughter who didn't belong. When she arrived at Stellar Tech, things were already tense. People whispered as she walked, past, their eyes following her every move. Some looked at her with pity, shaking their heads as if they already knew she was going to fail. Others sneered, clearly amused by what they saw as a joke. One older engineer, a man named Greg Monroe, stopped her in the hallway. "You're wasting your time," he said bluntly, his voice dripping with condescension. "That engine is years ahead of anything you've ever seen. Leave it to the professionals." Maya clenched her fists but forced herself to stay calm. "I'll figure it out," she said quietly, though her voice trembled slightly. Greg raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced, before walking away. Maya sighed and continued toward the lab where the engine was being kept. She didn't have time for negativity. She needed to focus. Inside the lab, Maya found the engine waiting for her, silent and still. It looked even more complicated up close. Wires snaked across its surface, connecting to glowing panels that pulsed faintly. A control panel stood nearby, displaying lines of code and data streams that scrolled too fast for most people to read. But Maya wasn't most people. She had spent countless hours teaching herself how machines worked, and while this was far beyond anything she'd ever encountered, she refused to believe it was truly impossible. She began by studying the blueprints Richard had provided. They were detailed but confusing, filled with technical jargon and diagrams that seemed to loop endlessly. Maya grabbed a notebook and started jotting down notes, trying to make sense of the information. Hours passed as she pored over the documents, her brow furrowed in concentration. Daniel, her father, stopped by during one of his cleaning rounds. He leaned against the doorway, watching her work. "You don't have to do this, you know," he said gently. His voice was full of concern. "These people don't expect anything from you. You can walk away." Maya shook her head without looking up. "I can't, Dad. Not now. If I quit, they'll just think they were right about me, about us." She paused, finally meeting his gaze. "I need to prove them wrong. For me, and for you." Daniel hesitated, then nodded slowly. He understood. He had worked hard his whole life, always treated as invisible by the people around him. Seeing his daughter stand up to them, even in the face of ridicule, made him proud. Still, he worried. "Just be careful," he said. "Don't let them break you." Maya smiled weakly. "I won't." As the day wore on, Maya grew more frustrated. Every solution she tried failed. The engine remained stubbornly unresponsive, refusing to power up no matter what she did. She began to wonder if Greg was right, if this was all a waste of time. But then, late in the afternoon, something caught her eye. While reviewing the engine's software logs, she noticed a pattern. Certain lines of code repeated themselves in strange intervals, almost like a glitch. At first, she thought it might be a mistake, but the more she studied it, the more it seemed intentional. Curious, Maya decided to dig deeper. She opened the engine's main software system and started tracing the origin of the repeating code. What she found shocked her. Hidden within the program were instructions that didn't match the rest of the design. They were subtle, almost invisible, unless you knew exactly what to look for, but they were there. These instructions were interfering with the engine's core functions, causing it to malfunction. Someone had deliberately sabotaged the project. Maya's heart raced. Who would do such a thing? And why? She felt a mix of anger and confusion. This wasn't just a test anymore, it was something bigger. She realized she couldn't solve this problem alone. She needed help, but who could she trust? That evening, after the lab had cleared out, Maya called her best friend, Alex Rivera. Alex worked in the maintenance bay alongside Daniel, fixing broken equipment and keeping the facility running smoothly. Though he didn't know much about advanced engineering, he was sharp and resourceful, always ready to lend a hand when Maya needed it. "Hey, Alex," Maya said when he answered. "Can you come to the lab? I need your help with something." Alex showed up 10 minutes later carrying a toolbox and a curious expression. "What's up?" he asked, glancing at the engine. "Still working on that thing?" Maya nodded. "Yeah, but I found something weird. Look at this." She pulled up the suspicious code on the screen and explained what she had discovered. Alex listened carefully, his brow furrowing as he processed the information. "So you're saying someone messed with the engine on purpose?" he asked. "Exactly," Maya replied. "But I don't know who or why. That's where you come in. I need another set of eyes to double-check my findings. Maybe we can find more clues." Alex grinned. "All right, let's do it. You know I've always got your back." Together they spent the next few hours combing through the engine's systems. Alex's practical knowledge of machinery complemented Maya's technical expertise, and soon they uncovered additional anomalies. It became clear that the sabotage was systematic, carefully planned to ensure the engine would never work properly. Whoever was behind it wanted Stellar Tech to fail. But why? As they worked, Maya shared her growing suspicions. "This isn't just some random act of vandalism," she said. "Someone inside the company must be involved. Maybe they're working for a rival corporation, trying to steal the technology while making sure we can't use it." Alex frowned. "That's serious stuff. Are you sure you want to keep digging? If you're right, this could get dangerous." Maya hesitated. She knew Alex was right. Exposing corporate espionage wasn't something to take lightly, but she also knew she couldn't ignore what she had found. "I have to," she said finally. "If I don't, they win. And I'm not letting that happen." Alex nodded, determination hardening his features. "Okay then, let's finish this." By the time they left the lab, it was late at night. Maya felt exhausted but hopeful. For the first time since accepting the challenge, she believed she might actually succeed. But she also knew the hardest part was yet to come. Fixing the engine was only half the battle. Uncovering the truth behind the sabotage would be the real test, and one wrong move could cost her everything. The next few days were a blur for Maya. She spent every waking moment in the lab, her focus entirely on the engine. With Alex by her side, she worked tirelessly to untangle the mess of corrupted code hidden within the system. It was like trying to solve a puzzle where the pieces kept shifting. Every time they thought they had fixed one problem, another would pop up, more complicated than the last. But Maya refused to give up. She told herself that if someone had gone through all this trouble to sabotage the engine, then it had to be worth saving. As they dug deeper, Maya and Alex discovered something even more alarming. The sabotage wasn't just limited to the software, it extended into the hardware as well. Certain components of the engine had been tampered with, replaced with parts that looked identical but performed differently. These subtle changes made the engine unstable, causing it to overheat or shut down unexpectedly. Whoever was behind this knew exactly what they were doing, making it nearly impossible for anyone to detect the alterations without close inspection. "This is insane," Alex muttered one afternoon as he examined a circuit board under a magnifying glass. Whoever did this didn't just want the engine to fail, they wanted it to explode. Maya nodded grimly. They wanted to make sure no one could figure it out. If I hadn't noticed the weird patterns in the code, we might never have found any of this. Alex set the circuit board down and looked at her. "You realize what this means, right? Someone inside Stellar Tech is working against the company, and if they find out you're onto them..." He didn't need to finish his sentence. Maya understood the risks. Exposing corporate espionage could put her in serious danger. But she also knew she couldn't back down now, not after coming so far. "I'll be careful," she said firmly, "but I'm not stopping until I fix this thing and find out who's behind it." Despite the pressure, Maya felt a spark of excitement. For years she had dreamed of proving herself, of showing people that she was more than just the janitor's daughter. Now she had the chance to do something truly extraordinary. Fixing the engine would not only redeem her reputation, but also expose the truth about the sabotage. It was a daunting task, but it was also an opportunity she couldn't pass up. While Maya focused on repairing the engine, rumors about her progress or lack thereof spread throughout the building. Some employees dismissed her efforts as hopeless, convinced she was wasting her time. Others grew increasingly hostile, accusing her of meddling in things she didn't understand. A few even suggested she should quit before she embarrassed herself. And stellar tech on a global stage. Greg Monroe, the senior engineer who had mocked her earlier, seemed particularly eager to see her fail. He stopped by the lab several times, watching her work with a smug expression. "Still playing around with that thing?" he asked during one visit, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "You know, some of us have real jobs to do." Maya ignored him, keeping her attention on the task at hand. She didn't have time for his insults, but Greg's presence made her uneasy. There was something about him, his arrogance, his dismissive attitude, that set off warning bells in her mind. Could he be involved in the sabotage? She didn't have proof, but she decided to keep an eye on him, just in case. Late one night, as Maya reviewed the engine's logs, she stumbled upon another clue. Buried deep within the data streams was a series of encrypted messages. At first glance, they appeared harmless, but Maya recognized them as communication logs between different parts of the system. Someone had used these logs to send coded instructions to the engine, triggering its malfunctions. It was clever, a way to hide evidence of tampering while maintaining control over the machine. Excited by her discovery, Maya called Alex to share the news. Together they worked to decrypt the messages. It took hours, but eventually they succeeded. What they found confirmed Maya's suspicions. The sabotage was part of a larger conspiracy involving rival corporations. The messages contained references to secret meetings, financial transactions, and plans to steal the engine's technology. Someone inside Stellar Tech was feeding information to competitors, ensuring the project would fail while they profited from its secrets. "We need to tell Richard Caldwell," Alex said once they had pieced everything together. "This is way bigger than either of us." Maya hesitated. She trusted Richard to some extent. He had given her the chance to prove herself, but she wasn't sure how he would react. Would he believe her, or would he dismiss her findings as paranoia? After a moment of thought, she shook her head. "Not yet," she said. "If we go to him too soon, whoever's behind this might get tipped off. We need solid evidence first. Something undeniable." Alex agreed, though he looked worried. "Just be careful, okay? You're stepping into dangerous territory." Maya nodded, though she couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The deadline Richard had set was fast approaching, and she still had a lot of work to do. Fixing the engine was one thing, but exposing the conspiracy was another. She needed to act quickly and carefully if she wanted to pull it off. Over the next couple of days, Maya threw herself into the repairs with renewed determination. Using her knowledge of engineering and the clues she had uncovered, she rewrote sections of the engine's software, replacing the corrupted code with her own algorithms. It was risky. If she made even a small mistake, the engine could overload and cause catastrophic damage. But Maya trusted her instincts. She had spent years teaching herself how machines worked, and she knew she could do this. As she worked, she began to notice changes in the engine's behavior. The glowing panels pulsed more steadily, and the hum of energy grew stronger. For the first time since starting the project, Maya allowed herself to feel a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she was going to succeed. But even as she celebrated small victories, Maya remained vigilant. She knew the saboteur was still out there, watching and waiting. She couldn't let her guard down, not for a second. The stakes were too high. Fixing the engine was only half the battle. Uncovering the truth and bringing the culprit to justice was the ultimate goal. And Maya was determined to see it through no matter what it took. The days leading up to the deadline were a whirlwind of activity for Maya. She barely slept, her mind consumed by the engine and the conspiracy she had uncovered. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw lines of code flashing in her mind or heard the faint hum of the engine calling out to her. It was exhausting, but she couldn't afford to slow down. The clock was ticking, and she knew she had to finish before it was too late. Alex stayed by her side, helping wherever he could. Though he didn't fully understand the technical aspects of what she was doing, his practical skills proved invaluable. He kept tools organized, double-checked her calculations, and acted as a sounding board when she needed to talk through ideas. More importantly, he reminded her to eat and take breaks, even if it was just for a few minutes. "You're no good to anyone if you collapse," he said firmly one evening, handing her a sandwich. Reluctantly, Maya accepted it, grateful for his support. As the deadline approached, Maya's confidence grew. The engine was responding better than ever before, its system stabilizing under her careful adjustments. The corrupted code had been replaced with new algorithms she had written herself, each line tailored to address the specific issues she had identified. The glowing panels pulsed steadily now, their light filling the lab with a soft, reassuring glow. But Maya knew the hardest part was still ahead. Fixing the engine was only half the battle. Exposing the saboteur was the real challenge. One afternoon, as Maya worked on final calibrations, Greg Monroe appeared in the lab again. This time he wasn't alone. He brought 2 other engineers with him, both of whom looked skeptical as they watched Maya tinkering with the machine. "How's it going?" Greg asked, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Still pretending to be an expert? Maya ignored him, focusing on the task at hand. She tightened a bolt and adjusted a wire before turning to face him. "If you've got nothing constructive to say, maybe you should leave," she said calmly, though her hands clenched. Into fists beneath the table, Greg smirked. "Oh, I'm just curious. What makes you think you can succeed where everyone else has failed? You're not exactly qualified." "Maybe that's why I see things differently," Maya shot back, surprising even herself with her boldness. "Sometimes, fresh eyes are all it takes." Greg's smile faltered for a moment, but he quickly recovered. "We'll see about that," he muttered before walking away, his companions trailing behind him. Maya watched them go, her stomach twisting with unease. There was something about Greg that made her skin crawl. His constant presence in the lab felt less like curiosity and more like surveillance. Was he trying to intimidate her? Or was he keeping tabs on her progress? Later that evening, as Maya reviewed the engine's logs for the 100th time, she noticed something strange. A new set of encrypted messages had appeared in the system, similar to the ones she and Alex had decrypted earlier. These messages contained instructions to trigger a catastrophic failure in the engine during its demonstration. Whoever was behind this wanted to ensure the project ended in disaster, and possibly injury or worse. Maya's heart raced as she realized the implications. If she didn't act quickly, the sabotage would succeed, and her efforts would be for nothing. Worse, innocent people could get hurt. She called Alex immediately, explaining what she had found. Together, they devised a plan. They would disable the malicious code and reprogram the engine to override any unauthorized commands. It was risky, but it was the only way to guarantee the engine's safety. The next morning, Maya arrived at the lab early, determined to finish the job. She worked methodically, double-checking every step to ensure there were no mistakes. By the time Richard Caldwell walked in to check on her progress, she was nearly done. "How's it looking?" he asked, his tone neutral but his eyes sharp with curiosity. "It's almost ready," Maya replied, wiping sweat from her brow. "I've fixed the major issues, but I need a little more time to run some final tests." Richard nodded, though he looked skeptical. "You've got until tomorrow. That's non-negotiable." "I understand," Maya said, meeting his gaze. "It'll be ready." As Richard left the lab, Maya exhaled deeply. She could feel the weight of expectation pressing down on her, but she refused to let it overwhelm her. She had come too far to give up now. That night, as she prepared for bed, Maya allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. She thought about everything she had overcome. The doubters, the sabotage, the countless hours of hard work. She thought about her father, who had always believed in her, and Alex, who had stood by her side through thick and thin. And she thought about the engine, sitting silently in the lab, waiting for its moment to shine. But Maya also knew the danger wasn't over yet. The saboteur was still out there lurking in the shadows. Exposing them would require courage and precision. She couldn't afford to make a single mistake. With that thought weighing heavily on her mind, she drifted off to sleep, dreaming of stars and endless possibilities. The morning of the demonstration arrived, and the atmosphere in Stellar Tech was electric. Employees gathered in the testing chamber, eager to see whether Maya's efforts would pay off. Cameras were set up to broadcast the event live, and reporters waited eagerly for the outcome. The stakes had never been higher. Maya stood beside the engine, her heart pounding in her chest. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of how far she had come. She glanced at her father, who gave her an encouraging nod, and Alex, who flashed her a thumbs up. Then she turned to Richard Caldwell, who stood nearby, watching her closely. "Are you ready?" he asked. Maya nodded. "Let's do this." She activated the engine, holding her breath as it roared to life. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The crowd murmured nervously, wondering if the machine would fail once again. But then, slowly, the glowing panels began to pulse brighter, and a low hum filled the room. The engine stabilized, its energy output steady and powerful. Cheers erupted as everyone realized what had happened. Maya had succeeded. But Maya wasn't celebrating just yet. As the applause echoed around her, she quietly slipped away, heading straight for Richard's office. She had evidence to present: the encrypted messages, the tampered components, and the names of those involved in the conspiracy. It was time to expose the truth, no matter the consequences. When she reached the office, Richard was already there waiting for her. His expression was unreadable as she handed him a folder containing all her findings. "This is bigger than just the engine," she said firmly. "Someone inside Stellar Tech betrayed us. I need your help to stop them." Richard studied the documents carefully, his face growing darker with each page. Finally, he looked up at Maya, his eyes filled with a mix of anger and admiration. "You've done more than fix an engine," he said. "You've uncovered something that could destroy this company if we don't act fast." Maya nodded. "What happens next is up to you, but I won't let them win." Richard hesitated for a moment, then picked up the phone. "Security," he said sharply. "I need you to detain Greg Monroe immediately. We have reason to believe he's involved in corporate espionage." As Richard spoke, Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. The hardest part was finally over. She had proven herself, not just as a skilled engineer, but as someone willing to fight for justice, no matter the odds. And as she walked back to the testing chamber where the celebration was still in full swing, she knew this was only the beginning of her journey. The news of Greg Monroe's arrest spread quickly through Stellar Tech. Security guards escorted him out of the building in handcuffs, his face pale with shock and anger. Whispers rippled through the crowd as people tried to make sense of what had happened. No one could believe that Greg, a senior engineer with years of experience, had been involved in such a betrayal. But Maya knew the truth. She had seen the evidence herself: the encrypted messages, the tampered components, the deliberate sabotage designed to ruin the quantum drive prototype. It wasn't just about failure. It was about profit and power. As the initial shock wore off, the mood in the testing chamber shifted. People began to look at Maya differently. The same employees who had mocked her days earlier now watched her with awe and respect. Some even approached her to apologize, their voices filled with admiration. "I can't believe you figured it all out," one of them said, shaking her head. "You saved this company." Maya didn't know how to respond. She felt proud of what she had accomplished, but she also knew she hadn't done it alone. Alex had been there every step of the way, offering support and encouragement. Her father had believed in her when no one else did. And Richard Caldwell, despite his earlier mockery, had trusted her enough to give her a chance. This victory wasn't hers alone. It belonged to everyone who had stood by her. Richard himself seemed to have undergone a change. Gone was the arrogant, CEO who had dared Maya to fix the impossible engine. In his place was a man humbled by the realization that brilliance could come from unexpected places. He called Maya into his office later that day, asking her to explain everything in detail. She walked him through her findings, showing him how she had uncovered the conspiracy and fixed the engine. Richard listened intently, nodding occasionally, as he processed the information. "You've done something remarkable," he said when she finished. "Not only did you repair the engine, but you also exposed corruption within my own company. I owe you an apology, and my gratitude." Maya nodded, though she didn't feel the need for an apology. What mattered most was that justice had been served. "Thank you," she said simply. "But I couldn't have done it without help. Alex Rivera worked alongside me, and my dad, well, he's always been my biggest supporter." Richard smiled faintly. "Then they'll be rewarded too. As for you," he paused, leaning back in his chair, "I'd like to offer you a position here at Stellar Tech. Lead engineer on the quantum drive project. You've earned it." Maya's heart skipped a beat. A lead engineer? At Stellar Tech? It was more than she had ever dreamed of. But instead of accepting immediately, she hesitated. "What about my dad?" she asked. "He's worked here for years, keeping this place running. Without him, none of this would have been possible." Richard nodded, understanding her concern. "Daniel Carter will receive a promotion and recognition for his contributions. He deserves it as much as anyone. You have my word." Relieved, Maya accepted the offer. For the first time in her life, she felt like she truly belonged somewhere, not as the janitor's daughter, but as a valued member of the team. In the days that followed, life at Stellar Tech began to return to normal, or as close to normal as it could get after such a dramatic event. The quantum drive prototype became the centerpiece of the company's research division, hailed as a breakthrough in interstellar travel. Scientists and engineers from around the world came to study it, eager to learn how Maya had solved its mysteries. She found herself giving interviews, writing reports, and mentoring younger staff members who looked up to her as a role model. But Maya didn't let the attention go to her head. She remained humble, always remembering where she had come from. Every morning she stopped by the maintenance bay to chat with her father and Alex, grateful for their unwavering support. Daniel glowed with pride whenever he saw her, his eyes shining with unspoken emotion. "I always knew you were special," he told her one evening as they shared dinner together. "Now the whole world knows it too." Alex teased her good-naturedly, calling her lead engineer Carter whenever they crossed paths. But beneath his jokes was genuine admiration. "You're going places, Maya," he said one afternoon as they worked side by side in the lab. "Don't forget us little people when you're famous." "I won't," Maya promised, laughing. "Besides, I wouldn't be here without you." Despite the success, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that her journey was far from over. Fixing the engine and exposing the conspiracy had been monumental achievements, but they were only the beginning. The quantum drive prototype represented humanity's first step toward exploring the stars, and Maya wanted to be part of that future. She spent long hours brainstorming ideas for improvements, dreaming of ways to make the engine faster, safer, and more efficient. Her dedication didn't go unnoticed. Richard Caldwell continued to support her, providing resources and funding for her projects. He even invited her to join the board of directors, recognizing her potential as a leader. "You've proven yourself not just as an engineer, but as someone who thinks beyond limitations," he told her during one meeting. "Stellar Tech needs people like you if we're going to reach the stars." Maya embraced the opportunity, determined to use her position to inspire others. She started a mentorship program aimed at helping young inventors and engineers develop their skills. Many of the participants were kids from underprivileged backgrounds just like her. She wanted them to know that their dreams mattered, that they could achieve greatness regardless of where they came from. One evening, as Maya stood on the rooftop of Stellar Tech's headquarters, she looked up at the night sky. The stars twinkled brightly, each one a reminder of the infinite possibilities waiting beyond Earth's atmosphere. She thought about the engine humming softly in the lab below, ready to carry humanity to new frontiers. She thought about her father, who had taught her the value of hard work and perseverance. And she thought about herself, not as the girl who had once been dismissed as the janitor's daughter, but as someone capable of changing the world. A gentle breeze rustled her hair as she smiled to herself. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt, but Maya was ready. She had faced the impossible before, and she had emerged victorious. Whatever came next, she knew she could handle it. As she turned to leave the rooftop, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The stars weren't just distant lights, they were destinations, and Maya Carter was determined to reach them. Months passed, and Maya's life transformed in ways she could never have imagined. From being the quiet girl who lingered in the shadows of stellar tech, she became a symbol of hope and determination. Her name was mentioned in news articles, scientific journals, and even documentaries about innovation. People called her a genius, a trailblazer, and an inspiration. But to Maya, none of those titles mattered as much as the knowledge that she had made a difference. The quantum drive prototype continued to evolve under her leadership. With a team of brilliant engineers working alongside her, Maya pushed the boundaries of what the engine could do. They tested new materials, refined its algorithms, and explored ways to make it more efficient. Each breakthrough brought humanity one step closer to the stars, but Maya didn't stop there. She envisioned a future where space travel wasn't just for governments or corporations. It was accessible to everyone. It was a bold dream, but Maya believed it was possible. Her father, Daniel Carter, became a beloved figure within stellar tech. After years of going unnoticed, he finally received the recognition he deserved. His colleagues praised him for his dedication and hard work, and Richard Caldwell honored him with a special award during the company's annual gala. "This man has kept this building running smoothly for decades," Richard said as he handed Daniel the trophy. "Without him, none of our successes would have been possible." Daniel accepted the award with tears in his eyes, his voice trembling as he thanked everyone. "I didn't do much," he admitted humbly, "but I raised a daughter who did." The room erupted into applause, and Maya hugged her father tightly, overwhelmed with emotion. Alex Rivera also found success in the wake of Maya's achievements. Inspired by her journey, he decided to pursue formal education in engineering. Maya encouraged him every step of the way, sharing notes and resources from her own studies. "You've got this," she told him whenever he doubted himself. "If I can teach myself, you can definitely ace school." Alex graduated at the top of his class and joined Maya's team at Stellar Tech, bringing his practical skills to the table. Together, they worked tirelessly to bring their shared vision to life. As the months turned into years, Maya's influence extended beyond Stellar Tech. She traveled the world, speaking at conferences and schools, sharing her story with anyone who would listen. Her message was simple: brilliance knows no boundaries. It doesn't matter where you come from or what others think of you, she often said. What matters is what you believe about yourself. If you're willing to work hard and take risks, you can achieve anything. Her words resonated deeply with young people, especially those who felt overlooked or underestimated. Countless students wrote to her, thanking her for inspiring them to chase their dreams. Some went on to become scientists, engineers, and inventors themselves, carrying Maya's legacy forward. Others simply gained the courage to believe in their own potential. To Maya, that was the greatest reward of all. Despite her growing fame, Maya remained grounded. She still spent hours in the lab, tinkering with machines and solving problems. She still visited the maintenance bay to chat with her father and Alex, cherishing the moments of normalcy amidst the chaos of her busy schedule. And she still looked up at the stars every night, dreaming of the adventures humanity would soon embark upon. One evening, while attending a conference in New York City, Maya met a group of astronauts preparing for the first manned mission using the quantum drive technology. They were excited yet nervous, knowing they were about to make history. Maya listened intently as they discussed their plans, offering advice and encouragement. "You're not just flying a spaceship," she told them. You're paving the way for generations to come. Don't be afraid to dream big. The astronauts thanked her, their respect evident in their expressions. One of them, a woman named Lisa Bennett, approached Maya after the meeting. "We wouldn't be here without you," Lisa said sincerely. "Your engine is going to change everything." Maya smiled, touched by the sentiment. "It's not just my engine," she replied. "It belongs to all of us, to everyone who dared to imagine a better future." A few weeks later, the historic mission launched. Millions of people around the world watched live as the spacecraft powered by Maya's engine soared into the sky, leaving Earth's atmosphere behind. Cheers erupted when it successfully entered interstellar space, proving that humanity's reach truly had no limits. Maya stood in the control room at Stellar Tech, tears streaming down her face as she witnessed the culmination of years of effort. Richard Caldwell placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've done it," he said softly. "You've changed the course of human history." Maya shook her head. "We've done it," she corrected him. "All of us." Years later, Maya sat in her office, now adorned with awards and certificates, celebrating her contributions to science and engineering. She glanced at a framed photo on her desk, a picture of her, Daniel, and Alex taken on the day of the first successful flight. Smiling, she picked it up and held it close. No matter how far she traveled or how much she achieved, she would always remember the people who had supported her along the way. Outside her window, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Maya leaned back in her chair, letting herself imagine the possibilities lying ahead. Humanity had taken its first steps into the cosmos, but there was so much more to explore. New worlds to discover, new challenges to overcome, and new dreams to chase. As she gazed out at the horizon, Maya felt a familiar spark of excitement. The journey was far from over, and she couldn't wait to see where it would lead next.